So we were going to talk about is estrogen a deficiency today? And then I was reading your one principle,
Uh-huh.
and then you were like, one of the things, it's based on the fact that, I hope I'm not mangling this, but based on the fact that everyone's telling us it's always one thing that you can do that will fix everything. And once you wrap your head around the fact that it's not, it's some very basic things, then life is easier. Is that kind of what your one principle is?
Yeah, so it's basically, you know, it's kind of like I use the example of, purpose in life. That's a principle. And it's important to have purpose, but it's different for different people, right? Like, some people get it more from work, maybe family, hobbies, and it's a combination. So the One Health principle is just in general for health as we age. What I found is that one of the common, aging principles is we have an increase in inflammation, oxidative stress, what I call inflastress, and a decrease in nitric oxide. And a lot of different things cause that. So as women, estrogen is kind of, especially with menopause, is what everyone talks about. And it does help. It can help, but it's complicated because it affects different women different ways. But it's not the only thing that increases nitric oxide and decreases inflastress. So I think, and that's the lifestyle factors that I talk about. Yeah, it's all the basic stuff we know about, but it's also other things like our breathing, how our especially our breathing at night, and all these hidden factors that increase inflastress need to be addressed. But we're so focused on estrogen. And that's just what I like. I was too when I first came into this space. But then when I found all this amazing research that was stronger, like then I just, also I had an iron deficiency that even being a dietitian, I took like somehow, and that was affecting my palpitations. I thought it was hormones. And so like, it's just looking broader at the stage, that so the One Health principle like just helps women understand what's happening, and then for themselves they can individualize that because we're all different. We all have different, you know, risk factors. Um, so yeah, that's when I kind of I learned about nitric oxide, and then I learned, well, why does it go down with age? I know with hormones because estrogen helps increase it. It's all about blood flow, so it makes sense that our reproductive hormones would increase nitric oxide to help blood flow. But I was like, why does it go up? And then I kept seeing inflammation decreases nitric oxide. It like becomes uncoupled. It's kind of complicated, but so does oxidative stress. And they're always together. So when you have inflammation, you're going to have oxidative stress, which is too many free radicals and not enough antioxidants. Um, so they're together. So I call it inflastress. And, when women go through menopause, they lose kind of their, I say like the star players of their health because they're kind of doing a lot of heavy lifting, and it kind of reveals these other areas that you need, right? And I know you talk about that a lot, the emotional fitness. That was a big thing for me too. Like and I was just talking to a friend about it. Like I could no longer be that person to just, burns a candle at both ends, you just have to really look at your life and be like, I can't handle this level of stress. And it's not good anyway, even if you
No.
could handle it. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like all these things I know we both see it that way. Menopause is kind of it's a wake up call, and it helps you look at your whole health. And yes, hormone therapy can definitely help. It's one of the tools, but it's not the only tool. And it's, and I'm seeing more and more women, I don't know about you, that are like, I felt fine. I tried, but I thought I had to do hormone therapy, and now I feel worse, like,
Yeah.
and I was ready I'm not doing systemic. I do vaginal estrogen. Um, and I just couldn't do it. And I'm like, because I knew it was out of fear. And I was just like, I should just try it now while I'm close to menopause and kind of that whole fear narrative. And then I checked my bone density, and it was fine. It actually went up. Like, so I really had no indication. And I just decided I'm not going to do this out of fear.
Yeah.
How about
And
you? What do you think?
I don't like to do anything out of fear. That's
Yeah.
one big change that's happened when I went through menopause. And I had a cardiac scare a couple of years ago, I guess 2023. just chest pain, but I've been to the ER twice for chest pain. Both of them I had pulled muscles exercising,
Mhm.
but got a full workup. And then when I went for the full workup with it was a cardiologist from Pakistan, and I was right into I need hormone therapy to prevent this and prevent that. And she said, you're really healthy. And I said, I don't know about my micro vessels. We didn't go to
Yeah.
that. But for as far as she was doing her standard look. And I said, well, should I go on hormone therapy? Everyone's saying it will help my heart. And she said, why would you expose yourself to risks and side effects when you're healthy? You don't need it for that reason. Like she was just like, and I thought, she's right. And I don't like to do anything out of fear. It's just not a way to make decisions. It doesn't feel good. And the more I'm thinking about my life, the more when something feels nice, it's kind of the thing you should be doing. And when something doesn't, it's kind of the thing you should not be doing. But I think it gets so confused about that deficiency part because it does have that protective effect before menopause. And then there's this middle ground. And then there's after. So there's people who are determined to tell you that every single problem is because we lose estrogen.
Mhm.
There's that Dr. Barbara Taylor. I mean, she's one of the most, she's an
Oh my
OB-GYN.
gosh. She
She wears the
just
hats and she has the curly hair. She's very muscular and it's estrogen. And for her, everything is through that lens. And that's
Mhm.
real and true. But I think when you step back and look at the sort of adaptation model, like the deficiency model is like, you lose your estrogen, men don't lose their hormones like that, and you have to replace it or you're messed up. It's an accident. Like nature made a mistake with us and they didn't make a mistake with men. When you look at the adaptation model, that and this is like rooted in biology. I've interviewed a number of evolutionary biologists who are like, this is an adaptation. Your body was designed to go through this. So it's a very simplistic lens to look at it. Like you don't have it, you have it and then you don't have it. So you're messed up and you have to replace it at a lower level. Like it just doesn't stand up to any scrutiny, not even scientific scrutiny, just like me, regular person scrutiny. So once I got my head around that, I'm very convinced of that. Like that, I believe really a lot in the power of the body to balance. And I don't know, what do you think about that part?
I mean, I think the argument like natural versus, I do think women can be, uh, especially they go through natural menopause. It's not early menopause, not surgical menopause, that kind of thing. And I think this is where the research needs to step in. We're so like I said, focus on hormones, but I think there's a lot we can do to make up for not just hormones, but the biological aging, right? Because by the time you're 50, and now we're seeing that we're aging in bursts. And one of the studies showed 45, you age in all these proteins, like that's during perimenopause. So it is very hard to distinguish aging from,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's an intersection there for
But I
sure.
do
And
think, yeah, that some women honestly just may really need estrogen because maybe they don't, there's a lot of genetically, there might be that they don't make it as well because we do make estrogen after it's not a lot, but intracellularly. So I think, some women, I trust if a woman feels really, really great on hormone therapy and that might have been her missing link, but that's not true for every woman. And I think, uh, we're not really replacing hormone, even the people, the Dr. Felice Gersh or, the Wiley protocol. We can never go back to what our hormones were with the feedback loops and the cycle. And, even if people try, and I do think we should do studies because there are claims that if you have the physiological levels, you're healthier. And we definitely, I think, should do studies where we study that so that those claims can be put to rest. Um, but I don't think to me, it's not a deal breaker whether you are or aren't on hormone therapy. All the same things still apply, so it just shouldn't be I think women now think, well, I'm protected, I'm on hormone therapy. And I see this and they're just like, I don't need to, because they feel better. But sometimes that pain that we feel is a motivation. We don't do stuff unless there's some kind of pain, right? You don't usually make change unless you're feeling like I'm just stuck. And I think that's true with menopause. If you're have horrible hot flashes and great, take hormone therapy, but what's underlying that? Because that can be a signal of, heart disease, and so I think that's, whether you're on it or not, I do think bodies are adapted to do fine. But I think we're all individual, and we know this, being women, we know that, when birth control, one of your friends can like gain 10 pounds and be depressed, and another woman is totally fine on birth control. Like, I never had trouble with it, but I know I had friends that couldn't take it. And I'm not going to get into the birth control thing, but
Okay. Well,
that's a whole other. No, but
Lyra
yeah,
Bright's yeah.
so yeah, I do
Lyra
think it's a natural stage and women can do fine, but it's
yeah.
individual.
Like, where I always you can make people sort of angry on both sides because, the people who don't believe in estrogen, that you need it, or that it can actually mess you up and it's inflammatory. There's that bioenergetic group, they're really into progesterone, but they're really vigilant about it, and they don't think you need estrogen, and I've got this hormone therapy guide that I've been working on forever, it's almost ready, but it's like tracks, like, there's like 10 different belief systems, and there's more, I just tried to simplify it as much as possible. But Lara Bryden this week, and those belief systems actually go from the rhythmic physiologic dosing that you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
the sort of the evolution of the Wiley protocol, where you're bringing your hormones back up to pre-perimenopausal, like reproductive levels, like when you were 25 years old, and only doing progesterone cyclically for 2 weeks of the month, all the way to don't even eat a a bean or a chickpea or whatever because it's got estrogen, and then everything in between. But this week, Lara Bryden shared some research about patterns in estrogen reduction in perimenopause. And that was very illuminating to me because it was like sort of a graph, but some women it goes, it's going up and down daily, but it's like over time, some of us spike and then go right down. Some are a very slow decline. There were 4 patterns, and that made me go, okay, this makes sense. If they were able to break that into 4 patterns, why, my friend needs hormone therapy or she's not sleeping and
Mm-hmm.
she's in a terrible mood. Like my friend tried to go off her hormone therapy because it's just a lot for her. She doesn't like putting that stuff on every day.
Yeah.
And she went on a business trip and she couldn't sleep. And I'm never going to tell her you don't need, like, why, who am I to say,
Mm-hmm.
so those 4 patterns really made me think, yeah, that's why some women, maybe it's a gentler curve. And we know we're all different, right? We're all different. So it's not ever saying whether it's a deficiency or not. I think to figure out what your belief system is about it helps you make a decision about it. Because if you can know that the real truth is that it's not a deficiency, it's a designed reduction and compensation by the body. And the body does all sorts of backup things in a perfect world to accommodate for the loss of estrogen. It just helps you make a decision and not make a decision out of fear. Because if you listen to a lot of the deficiency model people, which is the medical model, so that's what we're hearing from, and they're taught
Mm-hmm.
this in medical school, then you're going to be like, oh my God, I don't have any estrogen, and how am I supposed to function? And that's why I just think it's important. I support everyone's right to do it. I just think it's nice to know your why always.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I see is when a woman, like, she'll get on it and she's feeling good, but then when she's not feeling good, it's automatically like we got to change the
Yeah.
hormones. And there's some accounts, and I've stopped. I was spending way too much time on social media, but like,
Me too. Just
I did the project, all this stuff, testosterone. I still don't feel good, and I feel like saying, okay, it may not be your hormones. Like, I do
yeah.
think that we need to diversify our health, and if we're investing so much into just hormones, we're missing these other pieces. And like, one example, one of the reasons I got so excited to like look at blood pressure. Okay. So hormone therapy is mixed. Some it can increase, some decrease, generally neutral if you look at all the evidence. And, something like, I always bring this up, inspiratory muscle strength training. Simply, strengthening your breathing muscles has found to date lowers blood pressure systolic 10 points in middle-aged people. So, like, to me, I'm like, wow, that is amazing. Hormone therapy, like, we're not seeing that same
No.
evidence. So it's not that it's very safe. It helps bones. And individually, I'm sure it helps women with their heart and brain if they're sleeping better and all that. But to me, I'm just so excited about these other areas, but no one else seems to, except for me,
Well,
like beetroot
because
juice,
you have to do something.
you know,
You have to do something, right? Other than and put a thing on. I was interested in recently because Tamsin Fadal is one of the leaders of the, wave of menopause awareness. She has like 1 million followers on Instagram. I've
Yeah.
met her. She's lovely. She's a journalist. She's done the M Factor documentaries, but she did a a reel where she went to her doctor. And I mean, Tamsin has got a personal trainer. She's always showing her healthy food, um, and walking, and like she's on all the hormone therapy. She's on
Hmm.
estradiol, progesterone, and testosterone. And she found out that she'd lost 2 pounds of muscle, and she was pre-diabetic. And I just felt like saying, like, the promise is that this isn't going to happen to you if you go on hormone therapy. That is
Hmm.
we've seen, you and I have seen video after video after
Yeah.
video of doctors making it seem like if you go on hormone therapy, you're going to be set. And
Yeah.
that's the part that makes me nervous. And I also don't know, because Tamsin's doing everything right, I would think. Like I believe everything she's doing. She's a fit looking person. Um so that's just like it's over promising, I
It's
think,
for
when it
sure
comes to.
overpromising, and it's the evidence just isn't there, and when they say, "Well, bioidentical," well, let's get that research. Like, we should be if the research
Yes.
isn't there, I think the people that are making the claims need to get out there and be like I think there was a study someone had mentioned that, like, was supposed to be underway, but then funding was an issue looking at the physiological levels. Because a lot of times they'll be like, "Well, you're not on enough." Like, that's why, it's like, "Really?" Like, when the totality of the research shows higher doses, especially as you get older, is more adverse risk. Like that one study with the over 65, it's not huge risk, but it's just, as we get older, and this is something else, we just may not respond to estrogen the same way. Like our blood vessels health changes, and the research shows that. So, um, it really is the one health principle I talk about is, what are other causes of stress that,
Yeah.
she might be I could come up with some ideas, and I think there's a lot of, like I said, hidden, um, a very high amount of uh, women and men have some kind of sleep disorder breathing as they get older. I think that is also like just most people don't know, and we need better tests. Um, there's just a lot of different things that, yeah, hormones may help. They can help with the respiratory system, but there's just no this research isn't there, to say that it's going to fix it. So I think we need to move on. Like we know it's safe. Let's have it available, but let's be looking at these other factors that can, move the needle.
I really want people to know how much, like, the doctors have become very popular, sort of overstate the evidence for its benefits and underestimate the side effects. And, I went to go get vaginal estrogen from a longevity specialist here. And, he wanted to get me on peptides and hormone therapy, and he wanted to get me on like $5,000 a year worth of stuff. And I was like, I'll just take and I wanted estriol and estradiol. And this is another thing, is that there's not a lot talked about estriol, which
Hmm.
can be used systemically. And there's some really powerful research about its protective benefits against cancer. But the hormone therapy everyone's recommending is estradiol. But
Yeah.
I think he said he said 60% of people do really well, of his patients, and 40% have problems. And I was like, that's almost half.
Hmm.
Like, that's almost
On
50-50
hormone therapy. Yeah.
on hormone therapy. He said 60% do great. And so I guess, like, everyone's got their bias, right? Like, he's going to focus on, but for him to say that, like, that's, and you do hear numbers like that. So I hate that it's a process. And I have tried hormone therapy and had some very bad weeks on it. And then, I'm not really keen to spend months figuring out something that I feel that I don't need right now. But what you also mentioned, like, people are always fiddling with the doses. Like, I know someone here who was telling me she's having a terrible time, and she just was emailing with her doctor about upping her doses. And she said she doesn't sleep. She's not sleeping. She can't sleep. She's a workaholic. She used to be an alcoholic, and she quit drinking. And she said, I just put everything into my work. And I was like, you've got to calm down. Like, your work is so stressful. You've got to calm down. You please do something every night, like before you go to bed. Cause I think this is key. Like, this has kept
Mhm.
me through COVID and now a war. where I could hear missiles being intercepted, but doing yin yoga every night has kept me sane and at least told my body that I was safe. And she was like, she just looked in disbelief that that would make any difference. And she said, I'm reading. And it's like, no, you need to do something to tell your body that it's safe. And if, I just feel like there's so many things that people need to do and that will make hormone therapy work better. But I just get so frustrated when it's like, we're upping my dose because you're upping, and you're going to get on these high doses. And then what do you do?
Yeah.
Um,
And then if you have to go off it, because 1 in 8 women will get breast cancer. So not saying it will cause it, but, uh, you know, again, it's that reliance on it when we have these other areas that I think are really promising that women can do, and if a woman, I've seen, women publicly get off and they're like, okay, I'm seeing how I feel. But then they start getting tired, so then they go back on, but it's like, well, you might have to do some other things. So that's kind of how do we make up for, both the biological aging and the hormonal shifts? And I think
yeah.
there is a lot, I found it very effective. I sleep well. You know, uh, doing a lot of the things that I always write about.
Yeah. You write about so many things. One other thing that has kept me off hormone therapy is the availability because there's always a problem over where I am. It seems like it. And it seems like in 6 years, I just wrote about this on my Substack. There's never been a time that there's not a shortage somewhere in the world. Right now, there's a shortage of patches in the US, a big shortage. And there's a shortage of progesterone pills in New Zealand where they were like rationing and giving women like 8 pills. I mean, you need to take that progesterone to offset the estrogen. Those patches, I mean, it's just gone bananas, the demand for them. And so I think that is a reasonable thing to weigh when you're thinking on going on hormone therapy, because it makes me really mad that everyone's pushing hormone therapy and then people aren't making sure that it's available. Like, it makes me so mad that they took the black box warning off and no one at the, Health and Human Services was like, oh my gosh, we need to talk to the manufacturers before we do this to make sure that they're ready. Like, that kind of thing just makes me crazy.
Yeah, and I know, and I'm hopefully it'll, over time it'll get settled, and
But it always comes.
but
I
yeah,
mean, it never does. It'll get settled and then it'll be in the UK and then it'll get settled. It'll be in
yeah.
Australia. Like, yeah.
Even with the vaginal estrogen, like I had trouble. I switched doctors, and she wanted me to try the cream, and the cream was horrible for me. Like 5 days in, I was reacting to it. I usually take the
What happened?
tablet, the
Like,
Eufem,
is it
and
burning?
yeah, it was just, and I checked the pH, which I do, and it was high, and like, I don't know what was going on. So I switched back to mine and I used up what I had of my old stuff. And then
Is
I
that a
needed
tablet?
more.
Tablet?
It's a little tablet you put in,
Okay.
but, uh, and it was like trying to get more, like, cause I ran out, insurance only covers, and I'm just like, I don't care. I'm going to pay. Like, it
Yeah.
just having to rely on that. And I ended up getting a generic form and paying out, which was the same that I paid for the other type. And then I found the Vagibiome, which is probiotics, which I think some of the research is starting to show that really combining that with the vaginal estrogen really helped me, because I felt like vaginal estrogen alone was starting not to cut it. And
Okay.
now I have this Vagibiome I love, and there's a lot of other things you can do. The red light down
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
uh,
I have that device, the V Sculpt, the Joylux V Sculpt. Do you think I use it? No, I never use it. I use it. I get gung ho and I use it for a week, and then it's not unpleasant. Like, it's fine. It's a little bit warm, but
I know I got
um,
that too, and I didn't
you know,
keep using it. So I'm like,
no. And then when I go to use it, it's always dead. So then I'm like, oh, what's Vagibiome? I think you've written about this, but
yeah. So it has, a lot of the changes we have as with menopause and aging is through bacteria. The lactobacilli decrease in the vaginal area, so it has those lactobacilli and it has hyaluronic acid, and then someone else contacted me. I never that they have a probiotic. You can take oral probiotics, which can help, but I take it as a different one.
you
Um,
take it.
so I don't. I wanted to, you can just put it up there.
Get it up there.
Yeah, and it's I don't know.
I love what we're talking about. I wouldn't have dreamed that I would be able to talk about any of this stuff before. It's absolutely fascinating. I just want to read Danny's comment because this is really important. Danny McFarland. Nobody is talking about all of food, chemicals, and additives in our food affects the body's natural responses to hormone levels either. So many are endocrine disruptors, and they cause fluctuations and shifts daily. And just today, I saw this really cool guy on Instagram, but he's a little alarming because he has face tattoos, but I'm trying not to judge him. But he was talking about metalloestrogens. He was talking about how cadmium, nickel, lead, mercury, and aluminum all bind on estrogen receptors and act like estrogen. And he was linking it to, I mean, I have to research it more, but that makes a lot of sense, right? There's
Yeah.
a reason we're having all these problems. And if you've got high levels of these things, to add more estrogen in, it always makes me a little bit nervous. And that, are you processing it properly through your liver? That always makes me nervous too. It makes me a little nervous. People don't pay not a large section of medicine prescribing doesn't pay any attention to how your body's processing it.
Yeah, and that's like in a whole another area that needs a lot of research, because so many different things, and I think that's what makes it, we have this whole system and many different things can be causing problems. And let's face it, modern medical mainstream is just to treat disease, which is just accepting that. And then functional medicine tries to get more at the bottom, but there's, pros and cons of both. So,
oh, you can go down terrible rabbit holes with functional and integrative medicine and naturopathy. It depends who you get, I think a lot of us probably have expensive testing. I remember I couldn't lose weight in my 40s and I thought it was me or my weight. And really I had all these other issues going on, but I ended up with a naturopath and a food diary. And I remember there was a day where she was like, why did you have this garlic paste with your chicken? And I remember thinking, I feel like it's a larger issue than a little sauce that I had, but also just getting put on supplements. And then there's problems with all of it. You really do have to, I don't know how the average person navigates it, but your Substack is so good. It's just like, and you're a living, example of it. So that's cool too.
Well, thank you. And thank you for interviewing people and I'm excited for some upcoming episodes.
Yeah. I've got some cool people coming on. Okay. Well, let's wrap it up for today, but we'll talk again. I don't know if we're going to do it every week. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. I think picking a topic and if, people want to write in with anything that they.
Yeah. If there's anything you want to know about, we like learning. We know about a lot of things, but it's not until it enters my orbit. And then if I get obsessive enough or you get obsessive enough, I remember you saying you just can't help yourself. My light is so bright. I'm sorry. I remember you saying, I just can't help myself. And that's exactly how I feel. Like I'll just get on something and I'm like, you spent the whole day.
Yeah. It is fun to obsess. One thing I've changed is who I follow on Instagram because I was realizing my feed was full of, because I was trying to keep up, but then it was keeping me from people that, so I can still go in and just check what's, to find out what like Mary Claire Haver or some of the other, are talking about. But that has helped me because now I'm seeing, people that I want to follow and that,
Well, and it's not to be like, I constantly check myself because I'm like, who do you think you are? But once you start learning about all this stuff and you see all the gaps, I don't have a lot of patience for some of the biggest names that are going on the biggest podcasts. And my friends feed back to me and send them to me. And everything's so simple, right? Like, just do this, just do that. And I like, once you start to see the complexity of it, and that's why those doctors have done so well, because they're able to distill it into simple and make it, because it doesn't help you when you're going through perimenopause and you have me saying, guys, it's complicated, it's nuanced, you know what I mean? But it also doesn't help, I don't think, when you're told something is absolutely going to help you and doesn't have any risks in it, and it doesn't,
Yeah, and people, of course you want that, right? The simple answer. But then over time you realize like, well, when this isn't working,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know but I think, we'll keep trying to, educate people. And even if you don't have a huge following, think it's still worth it.
You'd still be influential.
Yeah.
And we got Substack. Okay, thank you so much. Thanks to everyone for joining. And send us any questions that you have that you want us to look into. Nice to see you, Mariann.
You too.
I might be coming out to the West Coast later this year, so it's possible that we could meet in real life.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we'll see.
And I know you're going to New York, right?
Yeah. We have a retreat in June, so
yeah, keep me posted. Well, yeah, we'll do like where we're side by side.
Yeah. In real life,
In my
I
office.
love going around. I had this dream of going around the world and meeting all my menopause friends.
I know. I want to get out more, like mingle.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Okay.
All
I'll talk
right.
to you later.
Have a great night for you, right?
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.